What I'm going to try and do is try and make sense out of a tragic event and talk about how do we recover it from something like this. On July 20th, an event happened that's going to be compared to Columbine, that's going to be compared to 9/11. In our world, it's called too much, too early, too soon. This event happened. It happened in a place where it's not supposed to occur. It happened in a movie theater. When we see in a tragedy like that, what it does to all of us, it shatters our comfort zone and it shatters our assumptions about the world. And once those get shattered, we have a tendency to kind of withdraw from engaging in life. Assumptions about the world, an assumption we had prior to Columbine was that schools were safe. But then Columbine comes along and we learn, gee, maybe they're not. But we adapted and we were able to develop techniques for allowing us to feel comfortable as our children did go back to school. An assumption we have about movie theaters is it's supposed to be a safe place. A movie theater is what we call a comfort zone. You go there to relax. You go there to get rid of the stress from the day. That's been shattered. No longer can we view a movie theater in that manner. And then when that gets shattered, our comfort zone gets shattered. Our comfort zone are all those things we like to do, all those things we feel comfortable. Now a movie theater may move outside that comfort zone and may fall into the category of something we want to avoid or something we want to not go to or something we want to have a lot of anxiety about when we do go to the movie theater. What happens after these events is the mind tries to make sense out of it, tries to say, how could that happen? We find ourselves asking a lot of how questions. How can that happen? Why questions. Why would somebody do that? And the reality is you're never going to get an answer to that. So what do we have to do in order to recover? One of the things we talk about in our world is that crisis recovery begins in the middle of the crisis. And we're still in the middle of the crisis. What do we need to rebuild our comfort zones? What do we need to do to rebuild our shattered assumptions about the world? How do we carry on? There's no one set way. We all kind of have different responses. But like I mentioned before, one of them is, first of all, is disbelief, and then shock, and then fear. And then from fear, it can generalize into, oh my God, what's the world coming to? From there, though, we have to move into re-engaging in the world. How do you get back into the world? How do you get back into going to movie theaters or going to shopping centers? Another interesting thing we see after traumatic events like 9/11 and Columbine are people are afraid to have fun again. It's almost like you feel guilty having fun thinking about this tragedy. So that's one of the things that you got to learn to overcome. The other thing that you'll experience is a roller coaster of emotions. The roller coaster of emotions may be sadness, deep grief, or it may be anger, rage at the person who would do something like this. Traumatic stress is different than general stress. General stress, like if you're frustrated with traffic and things going on in your life, you can go to the gym, you can go to movies, you can go out to dinner and get rid of that stress. Trauma, we can't exercise it away. We can't even shop it away. Trauma has to be what we call purged in order to become a memory. And the way we purge trauma, there's actually 3 ways. Only 2 of them work with adults. We can use a 3rd way with children. The first way and the most powerful is talk about it. If you don't want to talk about the event because it creates too much emotion in you, you need to talk about it. If you don't want to talk about it because, and you're being honest with yourself, you felt you've processed it, then chances are it's a memory. Sometimes folks are hesitant to talk about it or they don't have anybody to talk with. Then we recommend writing about it. What are some of your feelings? Write a story about it. With children, or those of you that are artistic, we can use paintings, drawings, working with clay. But you got to do one of those 3 in order to have it become a memory and be at peace. The course of recovery goes for different speeds for folks. Sometimes people can recover very quickly. Other times it's a little longer. The other thing that can happen in recovery is for individuals who've had past traumas, who've had past violence in their history, it may wake up all those sensations. It may wake up all those feelings. And then people feel, oh my God, I didn't handle that. I thought I put it away. But it activated. It doesn't mean you didn't handle the past trauma. You did. It's just awake now. And so we got to look at how do we put that back to rest? How do you make it become a memory? One of the things we look at in trauma recovery is you want the trauma to go from a thought to a memory. A thought is something that's always in the forefront of your brain. It consumes everything. You may be at the store, you may be trying to engage in some recreation activities, but it's there, it's constantly intruding. Whereas a memory is something that lives in our mind, but it's not readily focused in the front of our brain. For example, if I were to ask you, what did you have for dinner 2 weeks ago? You'd have to spend a little time thinking and recalculating that. That tells you that's a memory. And that's what we want this to become, as a memory where it doesn't haunt us, but it certainly lives inside of us. The length of time for recovery is individualized. A lot of times people think, oh, I should start getting over this very quickly, and if I don't, something's wrong with it. No, recovery depends on your resiliency. Recovery depends on how many traumas and other events you've dealt with in your life. And recovery depends on how much time you spend on trying to recover from this. Communities respond to traumas just like individuals. So how do we get a community to heal? One of the best ways to get a community to heal is for a community to become invested as a unit in healing. It starts at the smallest level, at the grassroots level. In other words, neighborhoods, businesses, civic organizations, mental health centers, churches, and other religious institutions. Everybody needs to engage in activities to get people to reinvest back in the community. In other words, as a community member or as a business owner or civic or nonprofit, what can you do to get people to reinvest back into your community? How do you beckon them back? One thing I've noticed working with this incident since the beginning is that Aurora is a very resilient community. What we found is everybody from the police department to the mental health organizations to all the community organizations and businesses jumped in right away. That tells you that this community is going to rise up again. This community is going to heal. This community is going to pull together. It's hard to feel that in the middle of a crisis like this, but you have to realize that there is hope and things will come up again and there will be happy times again.